Hello and welcome for joining us at College Week Live's All Access event. Here today for our session on designing a game plan for success. My name's Eileen Buckley. I'm here on behalf of Shannon Schuyler. There is bad weather in New York today, which you might see on your webcam there shortly. So I am here on behalf of PWC's corporate responsibility team. For those of you who aren't familiar with PWC, we are one of the world's largest professional services firms. We provide accounting and tax as well as consulting services to large organizations around the world. So we solve important problems and we build trust in society, which lends itself to my role on the corporate responsibility team. As a CR team member, we're responsible for a variety of things, including the impact in the community that our firm makes, our responsibility to the environment, operating responsibly in the marketplace, as well as probably our most important role to our people and to their interest. So throughout today's webcast, in the next 60 minutes, you'll hear different stories. You'll hear hopefully nuggets of wisdom that will be helpful to you as you make your decisions around college and career planning. Also, there's a chance for you to submit questions along the way. So please send in your thoughts and your questions that you'd like us to speak further about. Quickly, I'll turn it over to Mitch Rochelle, a seasoned partner, practice leader, and our youth education champion in our largest market of New York Metro.
Thanks, Eileen. Welcome, everybody. I'll do this quick because it's really going to be my pleasure in a second to introduce our special guest. I have two jobs at PWC. As Eileen said, I'm a practice leader, and I run our real estate advisory practice here in New York. I've been a partner at PWC for 20 years, and believe it or not, I've been working for PWC for 30 years. Maybe I don't look that old, but I have been. And I have two jobs at PWC. My day job, as I call it, is this practice leader and being responsible for client service and leading a team of hundreds of people. My night job is leading our youth education initiative in New York City, where this year alone we'll spend about 55,000 hours in the New York metropolitan area teaching financial literacy to children from 3rd grade to 12th grade throughout schools. But it's really my pleasure today to introduce my friend Drew Gooden, a 12-year NBA veteran and a Kansas alum. Some of his basketball stats, which are very impressive. At Kansas, 15.6 points and 9.2 rebounds. And then in his NBA career, 11.8 points and 7.6 rebounds. And in the midst of all of that, Drew also founded the Drew Gooden Foundation several years ago, and we're going to be talking more about that later. But I figured I'd start with a question. I think some of the themes we're going to hear a lot about today deal with agility and teamwork, and I think you're going to hear those words a lot. And I think agility really proved true as we try to figure out how to get to New York for this program. So we're excited that Drew made it in and didn't have any weather problems. But here's the first question. When you think about the transition from high school to college, and many of the folks in the audience are really sort of wrestling with that right now, what are some of the factors that you considered when you were making the decision to go from high school and you selected ultimately Kansas?
Well, depending on the situation, mine, of course, was academics. But at the end of the day, it was sports. That was my golden geese, you would say. And I wanted to choose the right school that was a basketball school at the end of the day. And the University of Kansas, University of Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky were some of the schools that offered me basketball scholarships. And I just wanted to make the best decision where I felt comfortable and my family felt comfortable on going away, and it ended up being Kansas.
Right, and in that decision-making process, was it mostly your decision at the end of the day, or was it the support group around you that really helped you with that decision?
Definitely my support group. I didn't do anything, and we'll talk about this later about how important your support group is. I never did anything by myself. I could have probably did it that way. Who knows where I'll be today? Right. But I listened to my parents. I had an AAU coach that helped me out. And Roy Williams, who was the head coach at the time at University of Kansas, who really made it comfortable for me to make that my second home, and that's what I based my decision upon.
Right.
And Mitch, I apologize, Drew, thinking about your major decision, right? So you talk about the support group and how you chose Kansas. Going into school, thinking about a major, did you talk to others on campus and your peers to kind of come up with what was going to be best for you?
Well, now that's where reality hits. You go into school just thinking it's about basketball, and then you realize you're there for academics, and basketball is your second priority at the end of the day, which is how it's supposed to be. So we had guys on the team that had their major, switched their major a couple of times, and I followed suit. I started as a econ major, economics major, and saw all the math classes that I had to take throughout the 4-year plan. So I didn't think that was for me. So I eventually changed my major to a communications major. If you cannot tell how well I speak publicly. Yeah. So I stuck with that, and I loved it. I loved it, and that's what happened.
So that's really sort of that agility message too, starting with something and pivoting to something that made more sense for you.
Definitely. When you're in high school, you probably have an idea of what you want to do until it's really placed in front of you. Mm-hmm. And I think you're not going to be successful in anything that you want to do if you don't have a passion or if you don't like it.
Right.
So I didn't really have a passion all the way for math, but I had a passion to talk.
Which is different than, say, Mitch's path. Mitch, talk a little bit about your major and how you maybe were relatively certain about it.
And I feel like I'm the old one in the group here, but so when I graduated from high school in 1979, believe it or not, the economy was not unlike the way it's been for the last couple of years, and employment was a challenge. So it wasn't that I was dying to be an accountant for a living, but when I looked at the landscape of where jobs were in the marketplace, and from a career perspective, I picked accounting because there was a likelihood of getting a job when you graduated and keeping one. And it was a theoretically recession-proof, inflation-proof employment path, so that's why I went for it. Turns out that I was actually passionate about it, but it was really a career decision guiding ultimately my choice of school that I went to Bentley University, it was Bentley College at the time, which was known for accounting. And I really sort of made a decision around what was going on in the economy and where I could get a job.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more down the road here about tools that can help support these students as they look at majors.
Okay. Back to you, Drew. We're not letting you off the hook. I still want to talk about those 0.8 rebounds, but we'll come back to that.
Round up, man.
Rounding up. Do you want to talk a little bit about the balance and prioritization of academics and education and athletics, right? So you have a college career ahead of you, and you have an extracurricular activity, in your case, playing Division I basketball. But how do you balance all of that with all of the other interests that you also have in life?
Well, time management. I think that is the subject here, and what you're trying to explain. Time management is what they taught you your freshman year in college as a athletic student. Yeah. So you had to balance your priorities in making time to go to school, making grades, going to school on time, making it to practice, perform at a high level in athletics, and also somewhere in between there's sleep and food.
Right.
So time management is a huge key. And what is your scheduling? Can you take an early class? Are you more of a morning person, evening guy, or evening person? So time management is huge, and all these things that get thrown at you as a teenager coming into adulthood. I think college is the first step of first stepping stone into adulthood. So time management and getting your schedule down packed freshman year is key. And you have a good schedule, you'll get in a good rhythm, and you'll be able to finish out strong.
So that's from sort of college forward, but let's go back a little bit with you and time management and athletics and academics. And I know you got a story about making grades growing up. So share with the audience a little bit about what it was like growing in the Gooden household.
Well, in the Gooden household, I'm already 6'9". I had to come from somebody else that was big, and that was my dad, big Drew. And he stressed academics more than anybody in our household. My father did. And that was great, you know. He had a skill for me in high school that if I got a C, I was not allowed to play basketball for the whole year. Not like a couple weeks, the whole school year. Oh. And I thought it was a joke my freshman year.
And what happened?
I didn't play my freshman year. And what else happened after that, I became an honor roll student there on out, you know, carried almost a 4.0 GPA 3 years after that. And it was more to not wanting to be an honor roll student, more because I wanted to play basketball, you know, and that was the rule. But how he set it up, it was genius, because he knew what I liked. He knew what my passion was. He knew what I wanted to do. But the system that he set up for me and task at hand made it easier for me for the transition academically, not just on the sports sports-wise, but academically to go to college and have the choice if I had to do an academic scholarship.
So the audience now knows that NBA veteran Drew Gooden did not play basketball in ninth grade. So all of you people out there who weren't playing basketball in ninth grade but wanted to,
Still hope.
There's still hope. There's
Exactly.
You can make the NBA.
Yeah, and I almost didn't make varsity the next year, so still hope.
Well, it sounds like that takes a lot of discipline, right? And we know that's a critical attribute, not only athletics, but also with academics and going on into a career,
Yeah.
as well as with financial planning.
It definitely takes, you have to have so much, I would say you have to have so much focus because there's so many things thrown at you, especially a young kid, who your friends are. Are your friends doing the same thing? You know, are you hanging with guys or hanging with girls that want to go to college, want to be doctors, lawyers, or are you hanging with guys or people that don't have any interest in school at all? So one thing that helped me, a lot of my friends in high school were on the basketball team, and we all wanted to play Division I basketball. So we all had almost like a pack of making it. So that helped out tremendously.
Right. And one of your extracurricular activities growing up as a kid was also music. So
Yes.
you had another outlet. Tell us a little bit about your background in music.
We always had a piano in the house. You know, I grew up in one of those houses where when the family gets together during Christmas, it's Christmas carols being sang. My dad played in the band. I was always around band practice. So I always had an ear for music. And it wasn't until about the 5th grade where I sat down and really started teaching myself how to play. And I played by ear. And I've drawn an interest in the music. And I love it. You know, I love listening to music. I'm not the best pianist,
right.
but you know, I could get down a little bit on the keys.
Yeah.
But it's a passion there for me also. You know, I love it. I'm not an artist.
Right.
I can't draw worth a nothing.
Well,
Neither can I. But I think the real message is, in addition to having good grades and playing in a varsity basketball, you had another interest in music that really should help balance out the well-roundedness of you as a young man and now as an adult.
Definitely. I mean, it was another access or another a getaway for me outside of basketball and school. I mean, if I wanted to and do the music thing, I did it, and I came from a musical background, so it was always there.
And that's something that you and Mitch have visited a number of schools around the area, and you, of course, across the country talking to youth, and I know you've played for some of those students.
Mitch seen some of my skills.
Yeah, Mitch likes to put you on the spot
Yeah,
and play
yeah.
some piano, and then you've also talked with them about higher education and about financial planning and how it's impacted you. Will you talk a little bit about why that's important to you?
Definitely. Financial planning. So when you go to college, you're going to be broke. I don't care who you are. You're going to be broke in college. And you're there to start earning money or, you know, be successful later on in life. So when you do have money, you will have some type of grasp or understanding on how to take care of it, how to invest. So in college, I always knew that I wanted to either go on the field with my degree and get a job at whatever job market that was, similar to your situation, or playing the NBA and make a lot of money playing basketball. So I got to a point in college where I became good and became a prospect to be in the NBA, and left school my junior year. I left school early. It was time for me to go. I was the 4th pick in the 2002 draft, NBA draft, so it was a right decision. You know, and once again, I had to get with my family, my support group to make that decision. That was a huge transition for me alone. Now it's your first paycheck, and what do you do with that?
Right.
So the financial literacy part is huge because I did not have an understanding of finance. I thought I did. But when it comes to a certain amount of money or any type of money, I didn't know what to invest in. I didn't know how things work. I didn't know about taxes really. You know, and that's huge, you know.
So was there a support group, or you talked about support group earlier, from a dealing with money perspective? Yeah. Was there a support group around it?
Well, you know, I had humble beginnings. My dad worked on and off jobs. My mom, she was a bank teller. So with my mom, I had a little bit of concept on how to keep money and how to count money. But then, you know, as a bank teller, I think that's about all you do, right?
Right.
You know, she wasn't a stockbroker, you know, she wasn't a financial advisor. So I had to learn hiring financial advisors, tax accountants, CPAs. That's how I learned. And I told them before they got the job, not only do I want you to work for me, I want you to teach me. And this is coming out of a 21-year-old's mouth that was before picking the NBA. So I knew that I had to get it together, and I knew I had to be a sponge when it came to financial literacy.
Yep.
And I still am, you know, and I learned a lot in my 12 years playing NBA. I've made a lot of money and learned how to keep some of it.
Right. But now, as sort of an elder statesman in the league, you find yourself, you know, sort of playing coach to some of the younger players in terms of their finances?
Definitely. I had the veteran guys on my team as a player and coming up in my younger years as a rookie and a third-year player. I had older guys in our locker room that would always stress financial situations, whether it's what do you spend your money on, budgeting, real estate.
Yeah.
How many houses do you have? Are you renting? Do you have a mortgage? So you hear all this, the good stories, and you hear all the horror stories, and you kind of make way and you kind of piece everybody's situation and look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, this is who I'm going to be.
Yeah. And knowing you well, learning from mistakes is one of the things that's been part of your learning process, right?
Yeah, but learning from others' mistakes.
Not necessarily your own mistakes.
Yes. Learning from others' mistakes is huge.
Yeah.
And I'm that guy.
Yeah.
You know, you hear about the guy that got hit walking across the street, I'm going to be the guy that looks both ways after I read the story.
Right.
So learning from the other people's mistakes, other guys that was in my job field mistakes, really was a tool that helped me.
Yeah. And we hear, you know, looking at the statistics, I mean, barely 50%, 50% of students know how to budget at this point, and about a fifth of teachers feel comfortable teaching financial education. So this is certainly a gap that a lot of students aren't getting that education that's really critical to life skills.
Definitely. Definitely life skills. I mean, I remember having a business class in high school, and this is 98, 99, and what we did, we learned how to file taxes, you know, our own taxes. So we did that. So I mean, I think we kind of on the verge of kind of scratching that surface of bringing it into schools of financial literacy, but it's still not there where it needs to be.
Right.
So recognizing our audience are, you know, students thinking about those decisions that they have to make in the college selection process and even maybe major selection process. But what advice do you have for the audience around the college selection process and what they should be looking for in terms of the school that they ultimately choose?
I say figure out an interest, a passion. I mean, if you know what you want to do, you're already a step ahead of the game. Even if you think you know what you want to do, you're a step ahead of the game. And going in blinded and kind of nervous, you find a way. You still can find a way. But you're not the only one out there. Everybody's on the same boat in college, whether they're successful or not successful. But there's ways around it. It's getting, like I said, with your support group and seeing what's the best interest for you to continue in college. And whatever that is, whether it's math, whether it's being you're an artistic person, you want to do arts, education, you want to be a teacher. I mean, it's multiple things that you can, multiple roads you can journey to using college as a tool.
Right. And taking nothing away from your alma mater, but if you were to do it all over again, is there any, not the school, but the selection process, is there anything you think you would do differently knowing what you know today? Just about picking a school.
I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it the way I did. I did it, but I wanted to take a University of Miami trip. I wanted to take a University of Hawaii trip because it was all paid for it. I should have went to go see all these schools.
But you got to play those schools, and you got to
and I actually eventually got to beat those schools.
Yeah.
But I made the right decision. I wish I would have took more time in visiting those schools because I saw the first school and I fell in love with it, which is Kansas, and I'm still in love with Kansas.
Yeah.
But that to me, I would not change a thing, but always look at all your options. If I could go back, I'll always weigh out my options, going to see the local schools, looking at the academic history of the school, looking at people, whatever you think you want to do in life, looking at those people who are in that position, what school did they go to? So.
Well, and we were talking about this earlier today, just that it's one of the most important decisions that you make as a young person, selecting your university or your college. And
it impacts the rest of your life. Right?
Absolutely. You mentioned Bentley, you've talked about Kansas. I went to the University of Florida. I will say, that was a fantastic decision, and I still proudly call myself a Gator. But absolutely taking that opportunity, if your school offers it, if your parents or guardian offers it, to see multiple campuses.
Definitely.
Huge hugely
And College Week's a
advantageous.
great platform for that, because
Yes.
in this day and age you can do a lot of it electronically, but I don't think there's a good substitute for actually walking on the ground and seeing the school.
That's
and if
right.
it's in a cold weather climate, go see it when it's cold so you know what it's
Well,
really
Mitch, they
like.
didn't have any virtual tours in any colleges when I was coming up.
They didn't
so-
have a computer when I was coming up.
Wasn't live. So looking at, Mitch, you spend a lot of time with students, not only at the high school level, speaking with them about financial responsibility, but also on college campuses, talking
Right.
about accounting and other topics. I mean, what advice do you have as someone who's been at PWC for 30 years, but honestly has a purview of a number of industries? Any advice for the students?
Not to totally piggyback on some of the things that Drew said, but I think pursuit of the passion is really important, and the ability to pivot when something's not what you like. I talk to a lot of students when I'm recruiting on campus. I have the opportunity to speak on campuses often, and the things that I stress really revolve around really having the right level of empathy for others, which I think is an important attribute, that you're really in a community for the first time when you're in college, because it's a little bit different than if you're living on campus. It's different than when you're going to high school, because you're really amongst people and really taking advantage of learning the different diverse backgrounds of everybody on campus. I think that that's something that is really a fantastic opportunity, whether it be where they grew up in the United States or different countries of origin. I think that's really a fantastic opportunity that really hits you for the first time when you go to college, because that's probably a different environment from where you grew up. So I think that's important. And then also, I'd say lastly, is really finding the thing that is important and sticking with it. I say all the time in career discussions with our staff that a career is a marathon and not a sprint. And I think that there's an impatience that a lot of students have, and their thirst for instant gratification. We grow up in this day and age now where people put something on Instagram or Facebook and they're looking for a like immediately. You don't necessarily get that in a career, and I think that an education in college is a career. I mean, it's the beginning of your career. So I think people need a longer term horizon and not sort of looking for, it's not every grade. You really have to look at your 4-year career, your 5-year career on campus, and really see what you can accomplish in that period of time. That's my advice for somebody who's in school. That's my advice for somebody who's in a career in anything. And that would be my advice for an athlete throughout their career as well, I think. Right? And I
Delayed
think that
gratification.
resonates. Yeah.
I think he hit it in a nutshell.
Eileen, I have a question for you, though.
Sure.
Which is, what are some of the tools that are available to students that are paying attention to our webcast here right now,
Sure.
that can help them with this whole decision-making process? Because the thing that's staggering is the nearly $30,000 in debt that the average student graduated with in 2013. So that we talked about financial literacy, we talked about budgeting, but what are some of the tools that are out there to help those students with that decision-making process financially?
Happy to talk about that a little bit. And we all know people who have graduated from a great school and who are unable to find a job. And maybe they have student loans that are kicking in, and they need to make their payments, and there's a minor delay or a short delay. But overall, they need to be pretty quick to have an income coming in to pay back the loans from their education. And there's a number of tools out there, one of which is the PWC JA Build Your Future app. And I mention it because it is, yes, it's PWC, but it's also incredibly, and there's a slide up that the students can probably see now, it's very interactive, and it takes you step by step through, if I want to be, a teacher, this is what it's going to cost, these are the degrees I'm going to need, this is what it's going to look like monthly if I have to take out loans or if my family is helping me pay for college. And so they can really see the hard numbers for what that's going to look like in 4 to 5 years when they get out of school. The other kind of term that's used now for education is the return on investment, or ROI, which is a common business term. But it's important to kind of think about that in the education realm as well. Does it make sense for me to go to a private 4-year university and take out loans? And if it does, am I going to be able to pay those loans back promptly? So this app, as well as a number of calculators on university websites, there's a variety of resources that if you just kind of look online, and I don't want to get too specific, but there's a number of
There are tools.
Yes.
So if you go on your browser and
Yes.
and search for tools to help me figure out how to pay for college.
Yeah.
This one, and
this is an easy one to be
but this is an app,
downloaded
right?
like that,
Yeah.
and makes it very simple. But it is something to look at, because I can tell you, when I went into school, and I did graduate school on scholarships and on loans, that's not something that I paid a lot of attention to, and that is something that we should be looking at. Our students should be looking at going into school.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think that kind of goes back to what I was saying, the generational gap, and now we have data and all the technology, and I mean, it's right here in the app.
Yes.
You want to be a teacher? You type in a teacher. This is how much it's going to cost. This is how much you're going to make.
Athlete is one of the choices.
I didn't want to bring that up.
Yes, athlete.
I don't think you need a loan for that.
But there is athlete on there. But you know, all kidding aside, there are students that are going to school that aren't getting scholarships and are playing a sport, and they're equally passionate about sports, but they have to figure out how to go to the university, and the app can sort of pave that way. It may not mean that they get a professional contract on the back end of their 4 or 5 years on campus, but they certainly have to figure out how to underwrite the decision, and I think it's a very commercial tool.
That's a great tool.
Very user friendly. So. You're now in school. You're taking
Yes.
classes now, Drew.
Yes.
So I know some folks on the webcast might be thinking, well, he's not like where I am right now. But actually, you are back taking classes, learning, continuing your education. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I am in school. I'm actually in a Western Civilization 2 class right now at the University of Kansas, and it's an online class. Rock Chalk. And it's interesting you say that. I'm a free agent right now, so I've had a lot of time to not only spend with my family, but to kind of see myself as a person and what I'm actually speaking for. So to be up here to talk to you guys about college and to talk to the kids that are going to end up eventually probably going to college and starting their careers, I wanted to have myself together before I can project what I'm saying and my thoughts, so it can have some type of stability, some type of credibility. So if I'm sitting here and made a living and supposedly already had my career, and I'm going back to school to further my education and complete everything I needed to complete it, should tell you a lot, that how important education is. And I know it is. So I'm using myself as an example for other people that if you want to go to school, if you don't want to school, if you want to come back to school, the school's been there 100 years. You can always do it.
So what's your major?
I'm a communications major, yes. And what I like to do and what I want to transition to after basketball, communications really was a tool that kind of was an outlet for all these things that I wanted to do, whether it was TV, public speaking, or working in a work environment with other people. So it gives you a lot of skills in that field.
Very versatile, yeah.
Very versatile.
Well, we talked about transition in the first question, the transition from high school to going to Kansas, and now at some point in the future, you obviously still have years left in you to play in the game, but you'll have to transition into something else. And think about that: you'll be in your mid-30s, and you'll be starting a new career.
Definitely, but why not make the transition now?
Right.
While you can. When you stop being a police officer, you can't say, "Hey, I want to be a firefighter now." Right. Or you can't stop being a lawyer and say, "Hey, I want to be a doctor now." Right. It has to be steps along the process of your career, whatever that is. And hey, are you going to stick with it, or are you going to move on and do something else? Like you said, 35, and I'm retired. That's not the average American age of retirement. Right. So I have another 25 years to do something.
Right.
I'm not going to.
And we are seeing that trend of folks reinventing themselves throughout their career. I mean, you've had a number of exciting opportunities and are now in this chapter.
Do you think others should be thinking about the future more in terms of where they are today?
Definitely. And I mean, this is because my experience in me saying this is just from other guys that are older than me telling me the same thing. Hey, don't do what I did when I retired. Take the steps now while you're playing, so the transition is a lot easier. Right. So if that's reinventing yourself while you're playing basketball, or you're playing, or you're in the work field, why not do it now? My career, unfortunately, is not a long career. The average career for NBA players is 4 years. So I've been lucky and blessed.
3 times that?
I did that 3 times almost, yes. Yeah. So, but then, like you said, how do you reinvent yourself with my type of career I have? I mean, there's positives and negatives to that career. Right. So I got another 25 years of work, Mitch.
But what's interesting is your career post-basketball, and I don't want to hasten the post-basketball part, so we hope you have a continued long career in the game, but community service is already part of that career with your foundation. Right?
Definitely, and that's an outreach also. I mean, how we met was through one of my charity events.
Right.
You see, I mean, it's an outlet. It's a great outlet, and those things don't happen for no reason, you know. And I think the Good and the Drew Gooden Foundation it opens up a lot of doors, not for myself, but for the kids we're helping or the families we're helping.
I'm going to ask a very tactical question around financial responsibility, because sometimes people say to me, PWC has a focus on financial literacy, but what does that mean? What is financial literacy? And we can think of it as financial responsibility, personal finance, and being adept at speaking to that.
Awareness,
yes. Financial awareness. I mean, are there specific behaviors you would recommend as students, especially at this critical juncture, as they are about to go out on their own, maybe with or without an income?
Yeah. What you want and what you need are two different things. What you want.
And by the way, if my kids are listening right now, which I think they are, did you hear what he just said? Want and need, two different
want
things.
And need. So if you already got an Xbox, you don't need the new one right now. But yeah, want and need. I went through my career buying what I wanted, but I didn't need it, And then you always realize you always want what you don't have. Right. Then you keep going to get what you want, There's still something out there that you still want. Right. So know what you want and know what you need, is very simple.
That's great.
We've got questions. I'm going to go to the second question up there, which is visiting schools. And Drew, you talked about it, and Eileen, you were in our campus recruiting team for a while too, so you know campuses. But is it really critical that students visit the schools that they're considering? I mean, actually touching the ground, how important is that?
I think it depends on the person. I mean, if you show me 1, 2 schools, I would like those 2. You start showing me 6 or 7, I start getting a little indecisive.
Right.
But this is a choice, like you said. There's a fingerprint. This is you. It's going to be a fingerprint of you, a big decision the rest of your life.
Right.
So you're making a choice of higher learning of where that's going to be. So why not go see as many places as possible?
Right.
Right.
If I could go back, I want to go see them all. Whatever you can afford. I know there's programs that they're out there. You do college tours.
Right.
So I feel like go see them all, as many as you can. Even if you have to drive yourself, or carpool with some other people that's interested in that college also. Get it done and go see it.
And I would say the same, which is I don't think when I think about my career in real estate, there's no substitute for actually seeing the thing that you're talking about. So I would echo the same thing. Just go see as many schools as you can, even if it's at expense of your time to do so, I think, because think about it, at that stage in your life, it's the most important decision that you've made as a young adult. So the more information you have, we talked about tools that are available for understanding the economics of school, but the tool that you have for understanding whether or not you think something's a good fit for you is really walking on the ground on campus, I think.
Right. So, no, and I think I don't want to underappreciate that it is. It's a lot of time. It can be very expensive to see multiple campuses, but well worth it if you can see, to your point, Drew, not an overwhelming number, but a handful that you're seriously considering to help you make your decision. That's something that I didn't do as much as I probably would have liked. Another factor, of course, is scholarships and financial aid that's coming in for given schools. But
one of the other questions that's up there is you talked a little bit about adversity, but do you have advice, Drew, for the audience in terms of dealing with adversity? I know you touched on it a little bit, but the form of that adversity could change from person to person. But what's the nugget of advice that you have, for the audience around that?
Like I said before, who are you around when things hit the fan? When things don't go as planned? Who's around you? Who's the shoulder you can lean on? So is it a friend? Is it your mom? Is it your dad? Is it an uncle? Is it a fellow student that's on campus? I think you can't do this by yourself. You can't really always do everything by yourself. We all think we can until we're stuck at a point to where it's a stalemate or we can't go forward and we need help. That's what other people are there for. That's what your support group is there for, to lean on, to help you get through the adversity, and it makes it a lot smoother. And you can also, like I did in my profession, what helped me through adversity in playing in the NBA was listen to the older guys.
Yeah.
Hey, did you go through this? What do you think about this? Marriage, this financial planning, buying houses. So you ask questions. It also help you also.
Right.
Of people that you would consider sound advisors, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's a support group.
And we think about this board of directors concept, and we
Who's your board?
recommend, who's on your personal board as a student,
Exactly.
as a professional, who's on your board looking out for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and building that relationship of trust with others so that you can rely on them to be there when you need them, I think is also important. The next question is for Eileen, which deals around student loans and how many to take out and sort of balancing the cost of education with sort of the return on investment. So any advice for the audience on that?
I'm going to definitely say use the app as a starting exercise. As far as student loans, you've got public and you've got private, and so my advice personally, this is not coming from an organization, but personally would be, try to limit the number of student loans, obviously, by offsetting with working, by looking for scholarships, by finding stipends, by using your skills. So for example, if you can be a TA, you might get a little bit more in a stipend than working at the bookstore that's not a skill-based situation. So loans are inevitable for many, but look for other streams of revenue, if you will, to help offset those.
So it's definitely like a lot of loopholes. What you're saying, a lot of loopholes.
And I think it's a balancing act between picking the school that you want to go to versus the school that you may not be. And you talked about need and want, and I think some of those life lessons, you have to apply in the decision. And if there's something that you just can't afford in life, sometimes it's best not to do it.
Right.
I'd say the flip side of the coin is sometimes in life you just have to take certain risks knowing that you believe in yourself. So I think you go back to that board of directors, and my advice at the end of the day would be don't make that decision all on your own, right? Yeah. You've got somebody around that you can turn to.
Who's on your board?
Who's on your board?
Right.
Exactly. The question seems to be for me, which is what we look for in a resume. I touched on it earlier, but I think the real takeaway there is the well-roundedness of the candidate. I can't underestimate that. And I see a lot of people who put things on their resume because they think that's what employers want. And I'll tell you as an employer, I'm not looking for a checklist kind of resume that's got one of everything. I said earlier the word authenticity. I'm looking for something on the resume that really says that this person is engaged in education, engaged in extracurricular, engaged in the community. And if somebody is engaged, I think that they'd be a good employee because our firm, PWC, is a community, okay?
Right.
It's not just the work, it's the things we do in the community, whether it be teaching financial literacy in schools, whether it be some of the sustainability initiatives we have. There's a lot of ways we can give back, and I'm looking for that in somebody that I know is going to be a good fit for our organization because their values are similar to the values of our organization.
And you said it so well, Mitch, that the GPA gets you the interview.
GPA gets you, and so I think that that's a given, right? I mean, stats in your career is what gets you signed. Stats are what gets you contracts, but it's all of the things you do off the court that make you the person that you are in the basketball community, right?
You hear that? Numbers don't lie.
Never, yeah. Although I'll go back to my notes. You got impressive ones.
This next one, yeah. So, Drew, for you, I mean, looking at a well-rounded resume and preparing for the next step. So, how can you assess, perhaps, against your peers, right? So, here you are at a large university. How do you set yourself apart, having a resume or experience different than that? And you could apply the same thing, right, going into the league, maybe even.
I think it. Well, how does it correlate? Or I think it kind of goes by what Mitch said earlier. What sticks out that I like that's different from everybody else? What are the authenticity of the resume or the person before you see them? What's on paper? What the stats? What's going on? What have you been doing? Is this just to make it look good? Because we all are going to do a resume and we're going to look like the perfect citizen.
Right.
But
being able to get some meat.
The people they're seeing people do this every day to hire somebody, so they see right through these resumes. So I say don't do as the Smiths or the Jones. Yeah. I say be yourself. Yeah. Be yourself, and I think the right company or the right person will see that and value it and hire you.
Do you think even in athletics, having a well-balanced resume when you're on campus as a player, it helps you in your career as a professional athlete too? I mean,
definitely. I mean, you can see guys out there playing on the court who had a good GPA, who haven't had a good GPA. It might sound bad, but hey, he might be a good guy. But it's the well-roundedness of the person. I mean, you can't force it upon anybody. I think it's just there if you have it.
Right. But it's going to pay dividends in that second career after playing the game.
Definitely. And always being a sponge. You know, just when you think you soaked up all the water, it hasn't been enough. So.
So the next one looks like for me, and you guys might have insight on this as well. Did you graduate with the same college major as you started with? So I did graduate with the same major that I started with, but I will note that I was a psychology major undergrad, which is a pretty broad major. And I will say, speaking of networking and having that board, when I finished my undergrad, I went on to graduate school because I knew that would be my best bet for then being employable after that. And then I knew a couple folks and really got my resume into their hands. So I'm not currently working in the field of psychology or in the field of organizational development, well, sort of in the field of organizational development. But fortunately, I had transferable skills that could be brought over. So that's an interest because we meet a lot of students that have a variety of majors and they think, how does this translate to a career? And your network can help with that.
Yeah, and I should take a whack at that because while I majored in accounting and I had a lot of finance along the way, my favorite classes, and I was a sponge there too in school, were actually psychology classes. Organizational behavior, introduction to psychology, human relations.
Which applies to what you do.
And when I think about what I do for a living, running large teams, dealing with a lot of interpersonal issues in the workplace, building trust with clients, building trust with other stakeholders, all of those skills came from those classes, not Accounting 101. And what's interesting is I'm often talking to other professionals in the field of psychology who, when I tell them sort of metaphors about my views on things, they go, "What was your major in college again?" And and the class that I go speak at in campus isn't the accounting class. It isn't the finance class. It isn't the real estate class. It's actually the psychology class, and that's the professor on campus that I'm most connected with. Because when I think about what I left that campus with that is most important to my success in my career, it's actually those skills and not necessarily the debits and the credits, right? So
yeah, that's a great point.
In transitioning from college to career, does it really matter how you've managed your personal finances while you're in school? Can I just wait until I start working? When's the time in your life to start wrapping your brain around managing personal finance?
I think when you ask a question like that, you're already thinking about it.
Right.
So if you have an idea of already thinking about, hey, I got to pay this money back, that's a great start.
So the second you sign the loan is when you got to figure out. And the one thing that I think you can't stress enough in that is when you are receiving any kind of assistance with education, whether it be parents paying for it, whether it be in a loan that needs to be repaid, whether it be some sort of a scholarship, whether it's athletic or academic, there are responsibilities attendant to that. And you have to be mindful of those responsibilities, whether it's maintaining GPA, whether it's taking the resources that you have and being serious about them when they're on campus. And I think that's a point that you can't really under stress, which is there are responsibilities that come with the funding of education, right? So I think we're in for final comments here. Any final thoughts, words of wisdom for the audience?
I just hope they can soak up this knowledge that we gave them because when I was their age and when we were their age, we wanted to listen to people, and I think we want this information. I mean, this is great information for them to use throughout life, and I think they should take advantage of it. What's the app again?
JA, Build Your Future.
Yeah.
Start doing that right now. You can start typing in any type of occupation you want right now to start seeing everything. Just play with that. I'm actually going to download it and play with that after we get through. And see what how much firefighters are making.
Is that your future?
Maybe.
Firefighter in Richmond, California.
I always liked the red fire trucks when I was a kid.
Do they have the uniforms big enough for you?
Definitely, I hope so. Yeah, but I mean, the tools are here. The tools are here. The people are here. Any other questions? I'm pretty sure they have people around them that can get in contact with us somehow. So I think this is a great thing for them.
Right. Eileen, you want to
All right,
wrap it up?
Well, thank you. We hope you enjoyed our conversation. I know this was a lot of fun, I think, for us up here. Recapping, I mean, I heard that a team is critical, or a board of directors, having that support system and taking advantage of it. Asking for help. I mean, we're not all experts on anything. No one is. So ask the experts along the way. Mitch, you talked about the importance of setting yourself apart as a candidate and being a well-rounded candidate. So lots of nuggets of wisdom, and I know I took a lot from this as well. There's resources out there and tools. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.